Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to talk about how to bond with an avoidant partner during arguments. I think this is important because disagreements do happen in relationships, and understanding how that will show up in the relationship, how it shows up between two individuals can be very important. So, the very first point that I would like to touch on is actually to understand each other's perspectives. It's important to recognize that both individuals have valid points and different perspectives. Arguments stem from our personal experiences and our perceptions, not absolute truths. From my understanding as a therapist and what I've noticed is a lot of how we model ourselves, how we show up, and how we argue comes from our childhood. Not surprising, but still true. I would almost say like 80 to 90% of it is the assumptions, the perspectives, what we think is right, what we think is wrong. An avoidant partner might think it's right to just not say much to avoid escalating you. So they might say, all right, okay, fair enough. And you might be annoyed because you might think that means they're not listening. But both of you guys are saying this is what's best for the relationship. But it's a completely different perspective. You think it's best to talk things out, communicate, and work on things. They think it's best to not communicate as much, not focus on the negative, and focus on the positive. Completely different perspectives, both for the sake of the relationship, of the marriage, right? The next one is having a team mindset. Most individuals who are insecurely attached struggle with this. Even secure people struggle with this, just not as much. You are not each other's enemies. Remember that you are on the same side. Nobody cares about your marriage more or your relationship more than the other person. The person you're fighting with is literally the person who cares the most about your relationship. I see a lot of couples, right? And I do care about people's marriages, but I do not care about them nearly as much as the folks that are in the marriage. I didn't say the vows, okay? Y'all did. And that's really important. You two together as a couple care more than anybody else in the world. Your mom doesn't care as much. Your friends don't care as much. Your siblings don't care as much. The random AI that you're talking to doesn't care at all. These things are important to remember. The only person's perception that really matters and shapes that relationship is yourself and your partner. And so avoidance can feel triggered during arguments, and that may escalate tension. And you might feel very abandoned during arguments, depending on your attachment style. And so neither of you are really meeting on the same page. But instead of feeling like you guys are enemies, remember you guys are this, you're together for this, right? The relationship is why you fight. You only fight because you care, I guess, right? And so remembering that is important. The next one is apologize when necessary. Any person needs to do this. Avoidants are not good with apologies, and I made a video on that, and so you guys can look into that. But in general, if you realize you upset your partner, even if you didn't mean to, sometimes apologizing can help to smooth things over. It doesn't mean you're saying, hey, I'm weak, I'm wrong, I did this wrong, you're right, nothing like that. Just, hey, I think that I hurt your feelings, and I don't blame you for feeling that way. My tone was a little bit harsh, I'm sorry. Can we move on? Whatever it may be. And being more comfortable with doing things like that does also model your partner to apologize as well. Some avoidants do apologize. Some of them do. I'm in a relationship and my partner used to be avoidant and he never struggled with apologies. I used to. Yeah, I used to. Not as much, but I used to. I don't think he ever did. Maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much, and now he's fine with it. We both are fine with it. The next one is express feelings compassionately instead of harsh, right? You can be direct but still compassionate. Expressing certain actions and how you feel, like how you word your actions and your expectations really makes a difference, especially for avoidance. You don't want to beat around the bush either. You want to be direct because beating around the bush is perceived as manipulative typically for avoidance, even if you don't mean to. But you want to translate how you feel in a kind way that's still direct. So for example, I didn't appreciate that you didn't answer the text message when you said that you would. I know that you're busy. I just want to make sure everything's okay and we're on the same page. You're still compassionate, you're still understanding, but you're still clear. Another one could be, you usually text me when you wake up, and you usually wake up around 7 a.m. It's 10 a.m. right now. I want to check on you. I want to make sure you're okay. I'm worried, but I also wanted to make sure if you forgot because I struggle with my own fears of abandonment, right? Something like that, where you guys are still on the same page and you're compassionate and understanding. The next one is address yelling and also don't yell. People do yell. I know it's common. I see it all the time in my office. I don't appreciate when couples are yelling at each other, but that could be the way that they believe they get their point across. And it's vital to communicate how that makes you feel. If your partner yells at you, mention, I do not appreciate yelling, and I will not have this conversation until we get calm, right? Anything of that sort where you can even say, I understand what you're saying. You do not need to yell. I don't like yelling. I promise I will hear you even if you don't yell. I'll probably hear you even more if you don't yell. Communicating that and addressing yelling instead of pretending it's not there is really important in these relationships, in relationships in general, okay? The next one is seeking solutions together in calmer moments and during the argument, finding some solution. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just saying, this is how I feel. Is there any way that we can meet in the middle? Or what's our temporary solution so that we can touch on this later? Finding something together. You want to word it as if you're doing it together, because avoidants have this interesting perspective of arguments that they feel that arguments mean the relationship, there's something wrong with the relationship. And that's not true. Actually, there's research that having some argument is beneficial. Some disagreements. A lot of people believe disagreements are bad because too many disagreements can be, but it doesn't signify there's something wrong if there are some even repeating disagreements, right? But having solutions together is the key of how this disagreement will affect the relationship. And so communicating any form of let's do this together, or we don't have to touch on this right away, I want you to know how I feel, anything of that sort will allow your partner to feel like this relationship is not just yours, but theirs. So how you say it is important, okay? The next one is share future expectations out loud and together. They're not going to be the same, especially not with an avoidant. It's not going to be the same right away, and that's okay. If you're in the beginning of the relationship, a lot of times avoidants think we shouldn't argue at all, like we were talking about many times in this video, and then you think we should communicate. That's in the beginning, right? And so their expectation of your relationship, the future of the relationship, is no arguments at all. That's not normal. Your expectation might be, you have to see things from my side and understand. That might not be beneficial either. Communicate how you would like to move forward and collaborate to prevent misunderstandings and have future expectations. I expect that at one point, we can have a more open discussion about this topic, and I would like you to work on that. How do you feel? That might be a little bit more palatable for them because you're not saying now, you're not pressuring them, but you're also not backing down, which avoidance can really respect, okay? The next one is avoid repetitive arguments to an extent. Okay, pretty much all couples have repetitive arguments, as in they fight about the same thing over and over. I believe it's like 85 to 70%, I don't remember, 70 to 85, something like that. Percentage of disagreements in marriages are the same arguments over and over. And that does not mean the relationship or marriage is bad. It just means how you manage it, how you talk about it. We are going to be with somebody who was born in a completely different lifestyle than we are. And that is the person we're going to be married to, right? Or in a relationship with. It's going to be difficult for you guys to get on the same page all the time. But what it means is you don't want to keep bringing it up to a high frequency. You don't want to bring it up every day, every month, every week, every couple months, every couple years, depending on what the argument is, because it's crucial to have space from those things, because as we see with couples, and I've seen it, the issues kind of heal itself as time goes on. And so maybe you're having the same argument about, I don't know, your husband puts the towel on the floor. Maybe it's annoying, but he does it less often, and maybe he doesn't do it. Maybe it's not even on the floor anymore. Now he hangs it up, but it's a little messy. So it's always a towel issue, but it's getting a little bit better. And sometimes a little bit better is worth it. And that usually happens because there's space in between repeating that argument, okay? So let's summarize and we'll wrap it up. Understanding perspectives, team mindset, apologizing when necessary, expressing feelings compassionately, addressing yelling, acknowledging the future that you have, like sharing expectations, and then avoid repetitive arguments. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.